Okay, the meaning of words. Enough talking now, thank you. Says most words convey several meanings or shades of meanings at the same time. It's the poet's job to find words which, when used in relation to other words in the poem, will carry the precise intention of thought. Often some of the more significant words may carry several layers or depths of meaning at once. There are many different ways in which the meaning of words used. We're going to look at the most common use for grade 7. Now, when you read that, that is the exact problem with why people don't like poetry. Because you read a poem, and you think, what a beautiful poem. And the poem is about an apple tree that grows and provides shade, and it sounds quite lovely. And you think, sure, I really like that poem and I understood it. And then you find out that the imagery or the meaning has got nothing to do with the tree. It's about World War II or something like that. And that's where we get confused. And that's why so many people don't like poetry. Now, just rest easy that in the exam, I would never give you a poem, an unseen poem with a hidden meaning. Okay. Unless we've discussed it in class, then it's not unseen. So when we do poetry in class, I want to see you taking down lots of notes on the page with pencil, line by line as we go through it, because poems are supposed to have deeper meanings. Okay, then you write the notes down, and then in the exam, I can ask you questions on the double meaning. Scene poetry will be straightforward. It will be what the poem is saying. Okay, so just don't panic. Don't hate poetry because of that. We're going to learn poetry is awesome. All right, let's highlight the first word there, ambiguity. It's such a lovely, lovely word. So what it means is a word or a phrase that can mean more than one thing. Highlight more than one thing. Even in its context, poets often search out such words to add richness to their work. Often one meaning seems quite readily apparent. So that's the one you read the word and you understand automatically what it means. But the other deeper and darker meaning await those who contemplate the poem. So that's if you one day in high school, in university, if you choose to do creative writing or poetry as a subject, you are going to contemplate the poem. You're going to study them. You're going to research, why did this person write about it? Find out who the person was. What does the poem mean that you're contemplating it? So Robert Frost here, for example, is an excellent poet, writes the most beautiful poems, and you will have heard some of them in movies and things. The subverted flower, the word subverted has two meanings. We'll have a look at that later on. Right, let's highlight the next one. Cliche. We've all heard of cliches, yes? There's nothing more irritating than when you write a poem and you use a cliche. A cliche is any phrase that has been overused. So it says any figure of speech that once was very clever and original, but through overuse has become outdated. Highlight the word overuse. So it's words that become very common and used too much, and then it loses its meaning. So if you've heard one or if you've heard more than 2 or 3 other people say it more than 2 or 3 times, chances are that the phrase is time worn. It's boring, it's old, don't use it. For example, as busy as a bee. Okay, beautiful back in the day when somebody wrote that cliche. A bee is very busy. A bee works their whole life, they never rest. So very clever comparison, but everybody uses it. So it's very boring. Can you think of any other cliches that your parents maybe use or that you hear? Yes. No. No, you could be like, as you, no, but if they said something like you think you're a genius, maybe that would be more cliche, yes? The tall of the tree. As tall as a tree. Very good. When a kid grows, we say, oh, but you're growing like a tree or you're growing like a weed because you're growing so fast. Yes, cliche. Yes. It's not rocket science. Beautiful cliche. Yes, it is rocket science. Sometimes maths is rocket science. Okay, so when something's not difficult for someone else and you find it, then they say it's not rocket science. Sometimes it feels like rocket science. Okay, very good. Yes, Emmanuel? I don't think that's a cliche. I think it's the truth. You maybe hear it all the time because you're on your phone all the time. But sometimes parents say, Back in my day, when I was your age, back in my day, we never had Wi-Fi. Back in my day is a cliche. Okay. Or things like if we say you're as happy as in English, you say happy as a lark. A lark is a bird. I don't know why they use that cliche. Or as sad, as hungry, you could say, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. Also a cliche. People say that. Yes. As sick as a dog. Very good. Very good. When you're very sick, that's a beautiful cliche. All right. Please don't use cliches in your poems. Yes, Makoba? They are alliteration and sometimes they're idioms as well. Raining cats and dogs. Another cliche that's an idiom. You're right. Same as busy as a bee is also an idiom. All right, let's have a look now. Very, very important. When we spoke about similes, we spoke about comparing. When we compare, we say, look at this thing. It looks a lot like this thing. Look what is similar. When we use this word here, contrast, we are showing opposites. So I would say, look at this. It is very dark in color, while this is very light in color, opposites. So when we use the word contrast, we closely arrange things that are strikingly highlight different. So often in poems, they will speak about the light of the day and it is very delicate, and then the dark of the night. Contrast. If you look at the color wheel in art, the colors that are crossed from each other are contrasting colors. Black, white, red, green. All right, next one, euphemism, one of my favorite figures of speech. Euphemism is a beautiful word. Highlight it. A euphemism is an understatement used to lessen the effect of a statement, substituting something innocent for something that might be offensive or hurtful. And for example, you say she is at rest. If you ask a little kid, what happened to your granny? She died. Okay, now in polite company, we don't talk like that. Same as if you ask a little, instead of saying she died, we say she passed away, she's been put to rest. A gentler euphemism is a gentler, kinder way of saying something. Yes. You see, I was talking about how grade sevens. You don't say somebody died in front of kids and then you have to say they passed away. They passed away. Very good. Also, horrible idiom. Someone says they kicked the bucket. That means somebody died, but it's a horrible way to say it. So we use a euphemism. Euphemism, soft, gentle way to speak to someone. If you ask a young kid while we're at school, they'll tell you, oh, my tummy was running and I was vomiting and there was snot. But a nicer euphemism, I was feeling unwell. You don't need to tell me the details. It's gross. Okay, so euphemism is a gentler way of saying something. The next one, also one of my absolute favorites, highlight, hyperbole, not a hyperbole. Americans like to say hyperbole. It's not a hyperbole, it's a hyperbole. And what it is an outrageous exaggeration used for effect, and teenagers love it. Oh my gosh, I have so much homework, I'm gonna die. You're not gonna die. You're literally not gonna die. You're gonna feel terrible, but you're gonna be okay. Oh, I'm so thirsty. Oh, it's like a desert in my mouth. I'm going to die. You're not gonna die. Or you're so starving. I could eat a whole horse. Please don't eat the horse. Okay. Hyperbole, a gross exaggeration. Teenagers love it because we love to be dramatic. Okay, the example there, he weighs a ton. If he weighed a ton, he'd be dead. Okay, cannot weigh a ton. It means he weighs a lot, but not a ton. They do. You're right. You're right. Yes, let's not attack the Americans. All right, the next one is a difficult one, but I want you to listen carefully and don't go tattletale to your parents. Okay, irony. Highlight the heading irony. And you've probably heard somebody go, oh, I see the irony in that. You might have heard somebody say it before. So let's just have a look there. It says irony is a contradictory, which means it has the opposite, statement or situation to reveal a reality different from what appears to be true. Now that sounds super cryptic. The best way to remember irony, and we will do it in more detail, is when you take something very serious, and you make a joke of it. Okay, that's the best way to describe irony. So if you have a look there, the example, wow, thanks for the expensive gift. Let's see, did it come from a Happy Meal? Should say Happy Meal, or the Burger King? Now, would something expensive come from McDonald's or Burger King? Okay, so this person's actually being nasty. Should be saying thank you and be appreciative, but instead of saying this is cheap rubbish that I don't like, they are using irony and saying, oh, thank you, it's so expensive, but it's not actually, it's really cheap. Okay, a good example where you will see irony when you go into the high school is cartoons. Now, how many of you know the cartoonist Zucchero? Okay, he's a South African cartoonist. Go and pick up a newspaper, please. The Sunday Times, go Google him. His cartoons, if I show you a picture, you will know him. You've seen his work. So he's been around forever, Zucchero. During apartheid, he did some pictures and they got him into trouble. He ended up having to go underground and eventually leave South Africa because his life was in danger. Oh, I don't have any there. Let me see if I can find some here for you. What he does is he takes the politicians. So he looks at the Sunday Times or he watches the news and he takes something very serious that has happened in the news and he makes a cartoon. He draws a cartoon about it and he mocks it. So one of his most famous things is President Zuma. Have you ever seen the caricature? Yeah. So when you of Zuma, anybody can you tell me what his caricature looks like when it's drawn in the newspaper? Yes, Mia. Okay, he's got caricatures you normally pick something about a person. If they've got a big nose, you draw it extra big. If they've got small eyes, you draw them extra small. So he's got his big bumpy head. But what else? What else is on his head, Mankova? He's got a very shiny head. Yes, but what else is on his head? No. No. Okay, so it's very, very serious topic, but I'm going to tell you anyway. He has a shower drawn on his head. So have you seen that character before? I don't want to Google it now and then I don't know what comes up, but I'm sure I've got a picture of it somewhere. So he looks like himself, the caricature of himself, but he has a shower on his head. So what happened was Zuma is known, he has many wives. He's a Zulu. That's his right to take on many wives. And then he was known for also having relationships outside of his marriage. And in the newspaper, there was a girl that had come to the newspaper to tell her story. And he had a sexual relationship with her and she's HIV positive. So she has AIDS, okay? And obviously he had unprotected with her, which means that then he could have AIDS. And when the newspapers went to him, our president of our country, and they said to him, what is the situation? Yeah, he said, don't worry, I'm safe. I had a shower. Okay, and that is very, very serious for our country. That's the leader of our country saying that if you have a shower, you don't get AIDS. So, Zucchero, luckily now in South Africa, we have a thing called freedom of speech, where you are allowed to do these things. You're allowed to mock the government. In some countries, he would have got put straight into jail for that. So he drew Zuma with the shower because of that horrible situation where he said, oh, you just have a shower and you wash the AIDS away. Okay. And then he also did, he did a caricature also of him on Father's Day, where it was a whole lot of little baby Zumas. They were in nappies, all with little showers on their head. And they were all raining from the sky because I think Zuma has 5 or 6 wives and he has kids from those wives. And then illegitimate children from people that he's not married to. I think he had like 16. And so he made this joke about Father's Day. And like I said, in South Africa, we're very privileged. You've got freedom of speech. You're allowed to say that about the president. In America, if it was under Trump, he'd probably go to jail. In places like Pakistan, he would have gone to jail. Okay, so that is irony. So now you'll never forget it. I will show you a picture when I can find one. The irony there. Something very serious that we're making a joke about. All right, next one, metaphor, highlight metaphor. We all know now. Shh, hey. Metaphor we've done. Okay, yesterday we spoke about metaphors. It's a direct comparison. Highlight the word direct comparison between two things, stating that one highlight is the other or does the action of the other. For example, if you say he's a zero, what are we saying? Are we saying he's physically round like a zero? What are we saying? He's a nobody. He's a loser. Not a nice way to say that. For examples, her fingers danced across the keyboard. We are saying her fingers are like a person's legs on the keyboard. Okay. Then a beautiful word underneath it that I also love, oxymoron. Highlight it. Beautiful in poetry. We love contrast, two different things. An oxymoron is a combination of two words that appear to contradict each other. So, for example, a pointless point of view, or bittersweet, or pretty ugly, or stupidly clever. Okay, two words that are the opposite, but it has to make sense next to each other. Yes. Yeah, it's like saying very ugly. Same thing. All right, underneath that, personification. I want you to highlight the word personification. And then I want you to take your pen and I want you to circle the word person. Because this is the easiest way to remember what personification is. It is when we take something inanimate, something dead, something not alive, something not a human, and we make it a person. Personification. Person, personification. You should remember that now. So we take human attributes or characteristics and we give it to inanimate objects, animals, or abstract ideas. For example, the days crept by slowly. What are we making sound like a human? Yes, Mia. Very good. The days cannot creep. They do not have arms and legs. They cannot creep. But what does it mean? It went so slowly. Very good. For example, the other one, the leaves whistled in the wind. Yes, Emmanuel. That's it. A leaf does not have a mouth. It cannot whistle. Very good. All right. This one is one of my favorites as well. I love all of them. I just love poetry. That's what it is. All right. The next one, a pun. The best way to remember a pun is a bad dad joke. Okay. So when dad makes those silly jokes, it's a pun. So a pun is when you take a word that sounds similar to another word and you put it in a sentence to try to be funny. So wordplay in which words are totally different meaning, but they sound similar or they have an identical sound even, but they don't mean the same one. So if you look at this example here, a firefly are the one that lights up, their bums light up, okay? Like a firefly in the rain, if it's raining, the firefly cannot light up. I am delighted. Look at the word delighted. So delighted normally means you're happy and you're smiling. Here, delighted. We've taken the light out of the firefly because he can't firefly in the rain. Okay, can anyone think of a good dad joke that is a pun? Yes? Oliver? That's funny. All dads love that. My husband also says it. But I want one more with a play on words. Yes. Well, you can. That is a play on words because you're saying, I'm hungry. And he's like, oh, is that your name? Hi, nice to meet you, hungry. Yes?
It's nice. Now I'd like you to meet my fungi.
Fungi. And it's normally a mushroom. Yes. Okay. That is quite true. But if you know, okay, so in the other class, very funny. What do you find under a duck's tail? His butt crack. Okay, so can you understand the pun? It sounds like butt crack, not butt crack, butt quack, because it's a duck. That's a pun. Yes? They forgot? You never got to hear dad jokes. You don't have to have a dad to have dad jokes. Dad jokes is like what we call them. They just stupid jokes. Yes. No, grade sevens, we can't chat. Yes? Leonie?
That is not a dad joke. It's for English, and one would be a
Very good as well. All right, have a look at these ones here. Pizza saying, you want a piece of me? Pizza, B, pizza. Have you ever organized a space party? How do you do it? You plan it. Okay, you see? Look at this one. I love this one. What kind of shorts do clouds wear? Thunderwear. Okay, you get it. This one? What is this? It's an ice cream cone. He's screaming. Okay, you get puns. I love them. All right, let's have a look at what's next on there. Let me close this. All right, simile we've done a million times. Please highlight and let's be done with it. Simile, a direct comparison using like or as. Highlight like or as. He is as dumb as an ox. An ox is a male cow, not smart. And her eyes are like comets. Comets, big, beautiful, shiny rocks. All right, on to the next page. We discussed this before. In your exam, I will not say go and look at paragraph 2 of the poem. I will say what? Stanza. So in poetry, the paragraphs are called stanzas. And in music, they are called what? Yes, you are listening. Highlight stanza and highlight the division of a poem. I didn't think, I just said it so you can see it. All right, so the division of a poem created by arranging the lines, shush, into a unit, often repeated the same pattern, the rhyme throughout the poem. A unit of poetic lines or a paragraph is a stanza. Remember that. Then the next one, the stanza forms we're going to discuss because I need to show you it in an actual poem and you do not need to know this for the exam. So if you want to make a little note there, you do not need to know it. You will need to know it in high school, especially when you go and you do a lot of Shakespeare work. It says names given to describe the number of lines in a stanzic unit, which means poetry in your stanza, such as a couplet I taught you yesterday, which is 2, a tercet, which is 3, a quatrain 4, a quintet is 5, a sestet is 6, a septet 7, and an octave is 8. What that means is if the paragraph or the stanza has 2 lines, it's a couplet. If it has 3 lines, it's a sertet. Okay, that's all it means. If it goes up to 8, it's an octave. And then that's all it means, but you don't need to know that for the exams. Right, then the rhyme scheme. Have you done the rhyme scheme before in English where you go, this word rhymes and you put an A, then you look for, awesome. It is definitely in your exam, definitely in your exam. So when we do the next poem, we're going to go through it and I'll explain it again for those of you that have forgotten how it works. It says a pattern established by the arrangement of rhymes in a stanza or a poem, generally described by using letters of the alphabet to denote the reoccurrence of the line, such as the A, B, or A, B. You've seen it before, yes? You did it in grade 6, most of you. We will go over it again when we have an actual poem. Yes, Emmanuel? No idea. They're playing netball today, so I doubt it. Probably. Is today Thursday? Is today your ball day? Yeah, I'm sure you can then. All right. Thanks for making your question about poetry, though. All right. Underneath that, a beautiful word I want you to highlight, enjambment. Enjambment. It's such a lovely word for something very, very basic. Enjambment means run online. Highlight, run online. So what that means, and often people that write rap songs, they use enjambment. It's when you get to the end of the line, but you're not finished what you want to say. So it runs onto the next line. They often don't use punctuation. Then you know you're not supposed to take a breath. You're supposed to just keep going. Okay, so enjambment, it's the continuation of the logical sense and therefore the grammatical construction. Sounds super difficult. All it means is that there's no punctuation to tell you to stop. Beyond the end of the line of poetry. This is sometimes done with a title, which in effect becomes the first line of the poem. If we go back and we look at the ocean was a perfect example of it. Run on lines. The sea is, there's no stopping. ... means keep going. As fierce as a lion. The sea is a blue blanket. You just keep going. Okay, enjambment means don't stop at the end of the line, keep going. All right, let's have a look at the lovely poem there that has been done to death at the Eisteddfod. Complete the rhyme. Let's see how smart you are and see if you can figure out the rhyme. My teacher took my iPod. She said they had a rule. I couldn't bring it into class or even to the... Write it in. Very good. See how easy rhyming is. And then as soon as you write poetry, you go blank and you forget how to rhyme. She said she would return it. I'd have it back that. How do you know it's day? Because it's very good. She said she would return it. I'd have it back that day. But then she tried my headphones on and gave a click on play. She looked a little startled, but after just a while, she made sure we were occupied and cracked a wicked. Good, not a fart. Her body started swaying. Her toes began to tap. Very good. T-A-P because of the word rap. Very good. She started grooving in her seat and rocking to the rap. My teacher said she changed her mind. She thinks it's now. Have a look. Good guess, though. But no, have a look. To bring my iPod into class, she takes it every day. She thinks it's now. Okay, O-K-A-Y would rhyme with day. Okay, so let's have a look at this poem. If we have to look at the rhyme scheme. Let's look, take out a color pen and let's have a look at this one. I'll do the first one with you and then we'll work it out. If we had to take this poem, say, for example, in the exam, and I had to say to you, let's work out the rhyme scheme and tell me what the rhyme scheme is. I would take a color pen. And now we're working with the words at the end of the sentence, okay? And you can see these are not enjambment. They're not run on lines. They finish on the end of the line. My teacher took my iPod. So take capital A and do a capital A there. Okay, in color. Then we go to the second line. She said they had a rule. Does iPod and rule rhyme? No. So we're now introducing our second rhyme word. And we just say B because that's next in the alphabet. Then we go, I couldn't bring it into class. Does class rhyme with iPod or rule? No. So we put a C. So that's our next rhyming word. Or even to the school. Does school rhyme with iPod, rule, or class? Very good. It rhymes with rule. E there. So in the first stanza, if I said to you, what is the rhyming scheme? You would write A, B, C, B. Okay, let's look at the next line. She said she would return it. Does it rhyme with A, B, or C? No, so we would put D because we haven't used D. That's what's next. I'd have it back that day. Does day rhyme with anything above? No, so that would be E. But then she tried my headphones on. Does on rhyme with anything? No, so that's F. Everyone understand where I'm getting the letters from? We're just going alphabetically. And gave it a click on play. What does play rhyme with? Which is? Got it. You guys got it. So if I had to ask you in the exam to do that for a whole poem, you literally would take a color pen, go through the whole poem like this, and then write down A, B, C, B, D, E, F, E, G, H, I, H. Got it. You guys are champions. All right. Is it break? You don't want to stay here and do poetry? All right, you can go. Sis, on you.
For the exam